of Nights from Beltane. I wanted to post this before then. In Secret Engine of the World, I spoke of 3 doom-defying or doom-defining deadlines. The US elections, US federal elections in 2022 and 2024, and a 2031 drop-dead deadline for any significant mitigation of anthropogenic climate disruption, our planetary emergency, the Sixth Great Extinction. And, what do I, these are doom-defining or doom-defying. These 3, you can live your life however you want to live it. But these 3 deadlines will define your future and the future of your children. And if we are successful in the struggle, may not even know. If you're oblivious to the political realities, and geopolitical realities, and ecological realities of our life, if you're living in a spiritual bubble or a materialistic bubble, you may never even know the world was saved or that the nation was saved. And you might be full of complaints, and you're the very fact that you can be full of complaints is proof that we survived what could happen. When I say the first 2 deadlines, 2022 and 2024, I'm not going to go down into the politics in any granular way tonight, although I certainly do. I just want you to know that that there is a struggle for the soul of this country. Yes, a struggle. And we must choose sides. Yes, sides, us and them. Us is a big us, them is a much narrower them. It is them. As Lando says in Star Wars at the end, there are more of us than them. But you must choose, and one must choose and one must fight. Fight for what? Fight for the soul of the nation. That this nation can fulfill its egalitarian promise that was with it in its inception. This egalitarian promise that we have been struggling toward for over 200 years. And that in the process of this struggle, we can purge the pathologies that have shamed us and warped us along the way. Racism, misogyny, homophobia, oligarchy, patriarchy, all of it. The 3rd deadline, we can't stop climate change. It's already underway. The Sixth Great Extinction is already underway, but there is a window, a narrow window. When Secret Engine was published, it was 10 years. Now it's 9 years. Before the end of this year, it'll be 8 years to mitigate the worst impacts. The solutions exist now. There are answers. And there are opportunities in those answers. It's not just about costing a lot of money. It's about generating a whole new kind of economy. But we must get there. And we have this narrow window. We as a species, we as a civilization have this narrow window. So all of my writing right now is, and my pondering of things and my speaking and my working is aimed at these 3 deadlines. We passed through 2022, and it was more blessing than curse. It was a victory. It was a narrow victory, but it was an important victory. If we can have a more decisive one in 2024, we really can be on our way to a very different political reality in this country. As I said, egalitarian. So these three, to deal with 2022, I did five talks leading up to the November election, and I'll probably do something similar, more and similar as we ramp up to 2024. But this talk tonight is the third talk in a series of talks that are aimed at the third deadline, our planetary emergency. So this series of talks and writings on the third deadline, also underway. This talk tonight of goddesses is the third in this series of Gaia Talks. The first, Gaian Poetics and Gaian Politics, was delivered in November 2022. And the second, Emerald Tablet, 21st Century Insights on its True Nature, was delivered March 2023, last month. The full text of all of these and the accompanying presentations and embedded video, it's all on Words of Power, all on wordsofpower.earth, or on my YouTube channel, Spoken Words of Power. Well, these Gaia Talks, which took me by surprise, I didn't decide to do them, presented themselves to me, or each one of them in a different way. The first one, I decided I was going to talk about Gaian Poetics and Gaian Politics. And I realized that I was supplanting Aristotle's politics and poetics, because we are at the beginning of we are struggling to arrive at the beginning of a new version of civilization, a reframing, a retooling, a rebooting, a resetting of civilization, East and West. I'm focused right now, narrowly focused on doing what I can in the West. And so I realized that Gaian Politics and Gaian Poetics was about supplanting politics and poetics, which were back at the beginning of the arc of the last civilization, one that's ending, crashing down all around. Not quite, but it could go either way. And then the second one, I didn't even know it was about the third deadline. I just had been carrying around this impetus to give a talk on the Emerald Tablet, which was never really that important to me. It's the most important earliest alchemical text, and a very profoundly important alchemical text. But I felt I had to give a talk on it, and then as I began to ponder why and what, I realized, well, I'm rewriting the Emerald Tablet for the 21st century, for our crisis, our moment, this time. So that was the second one. And the third one is also all three. I realized all three of them are dealing with different aspects of civilization. How civilization tells its story, how a civilization frames itself, how a civilization establishes itself, what its psychical, mystical borders are. It's very, and what do I mean by new civilization? It's very simple. To survive, to turn this present crisis, planetary crisis, into a great shift, into a true new age. It's already underway, but what it requires of us is that we consciously aim for a green feminist civilization, a woke civilization. And if those three words, woke, green, and feminist, if they give you the willies, if you back away from them, it's you've listened to too much. You've listened to too much of those left and right and center that want to separate you from the medicine, from the real medicine, from the real juju, the czars. We are working toward a green feminist civilization, a woke civilization. So Gaia Talk number 3 starts now. Give me all that toggling around. So I'm going to try to be concise and brief. I'm going to read from the text and extemporize off of that, but I want to stick to the script. In the 1970s, rock star, political dissident, and eventual martyr, the great John Lennon, declared God is a concept by which we measure our pain. A century earlier, in the 1880s, Friedrich Nietzsche, tortured genius, true giant of Western philosophy, driven mad by syphilis at the end. Well, in the 1880s, he had already declared God is dead. From very different vantage points, both of these magical beings were actually, albeit unconsciously, heralding the collapse of the patriarchal narrative. This has been a painfully slow and dangerous process. And now, at long last, we are finally nearing the denouement. On Friday the 13th, in July 2018, Ariana Grande released her song, God is a Woman. The song celebrates both female sexual power and feminist liberation. In February 2022, Christina Cleveland, Dr. Christina Cleveland, published her God is a Black Woman book that deconstructs the white male God and reveals the sacred Black feminine. Quote, imagination is theology. We can only believe what we can imagine. And our cultural landscape hasn't given us many tools to imagine a non-white, non-male God. Grande's song in Cleveland's book, they weren't the first utterances of God as a woman or God as a Black woman. I remember seeing those beautiful, bold declarations at protests and marches over the years in recent decades. and on the internet memes. But Grande's song and Cleveland's book epitomize these vital new cultural memes. God as a woman is more accurate mystically and cosmologically than white male God, and has been so since before the beginning. But it is also perfectly calibrated for this critical juncture in the evolution of our species, this end of history and this beginning of herstory, the end of patriarchy and the beginning of what evolves even beyond matriarchy. God is a woman, yes, but what kind of woman? Well, definitely for the personification of this great shift in our country, in our body politic. The facts on the ground in America, God is a Black woman. Cleveland explains, we are unable, quote, we are unable to imagine a God who is with us while we wonder if our beloved sister will survive the night. We are unable to imagine a God who proclaims Black Lives Matters, a God who says me too, a God who stands not atop the social hierarchy, but at the bottom with the people who have been cast aside, silenced and forgotten. When God is solely male, he can only show up as Father Sky God, who is nowhere near us. And then another quote from God is a Black woman. Quote, indeed, social science scholars agree that what's good for Black women is good for all people. The liberation of all Black women requires the dismantling of all systems of oppression, white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, and more. These systems harm all of us. So if Black women are thriving and free, it also means the oppressive systems have been eradicated and we are all thriving and free. So if you want to, back at the beginning of this 2-3 millennia arc of Western civilization, it is now coming to an end and is arriving in a moment of either transformation or annihilation. White male God was at the center. Well, there was a pantheon, BC, there's pantheon. AC, there was white male God, whether it's Judeo-Christian Islamic white male God. Or male God. Islam doesn't allow for it. But what will be the God of this new, what will be the central God of this new civilization, this green, feminist, woke civilization? A pantheon of goddesses, smuggled life, nature, and reality through thousands of years of metaphysical misogyny and gender slavery, providing cover for actual, literal misogyny and gender slavery. And some of these goddesses could stand as the divine power behind the next civilization. The Celtic triune goddess in the West, Durga Ma in the East, both all-powerful representations of full embodiment, full individuation. Freya, the Nordic goddess of both love and war. Venus Aphrodite, of course, expressive of the ultimate power, desire. Venus Aphrodite be a powerful, central, divine. Signature. The incomparable Tara in all her 21 flavors, offering boundless compassion and salvation from suffering and so much more. From the green Tara, who is always rising from her meditation pillow to answer the call of those in desperate need and in great suffering, to the blue Tara, fierce, hag, wolf, fierce, blue Tara, protectress of the Nyingmapa, but also protectress of all who call to her. 21 flavors of Tara. Oh, Tara, so. And then in the east, there's the indigo blue-skinned Kali. In the west, the raven-winged Morrigan. Holy ferocity, primal security, self-defense, war of liberation, sacred rage. Kali, Morgan, excellent choices. Lilith, too, like Doth, at the abyss at the center of the Kabbalistic tree of life. Like Doth, Lilith is the shadow of the Here's a few of them I've called out here. There are many, many more. I'll document all these images in the post at wordsofpower.org. All of the goddesses in this global pantheon are of what, and all the gods, for that matter, are all of what technically we would call the Sambhogakaya. The Trikaya, Nirmana, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. All the goddesses and gods, all the mythos, all the mythoi. They're all of the Sambhogakaya, of the collective mind, both the individuated mind, collective mind. They are like the rays of the sun. Dharmakaya is the sun, warming and nurturing those human incarnations who open to them. And those human incarnations that open to them are the Nirmanakaya, you and me. They are the mythoi. These goddesses and gods are the mythoi. They are not unreal. They are realer than real. They are super real. They feed the psychological body, the Manamaya kosha. The Manamaya kosha, one of the 5 bodies, as we delineate the human incarnation in yoga, right? I call that, you'll typically see it translated as the mental body, but I translate that as the mental/emotional body, or more accurately, the psychological body, the psychological construct, heart and mind. They feed the psychological body, the Manamaya kosha, with the stuff of the Vijnanamaya kosha, the intuitive body, the next rung after Manamaya kosha, or you'll say the Buddhic body, or the intuitive body, Vijnana, Maya, Kosha. The images and the tales and the holy syllables, the sacred syllables, and the emanations of these goddesses come from Sambhoga Kaya through Vijnana Maya Kosha into Manamaya Kosha. The Jungians would say they're all from the realm of archetypes. So they're all of the mind. I don't mean they're all of the mind and the heart, they're all of the soul, but they are of psyche, collective and individual psyche. They are creations of collective and individual psyche, reverberating down through the ages. They're, for lack of a better word, inside us. Powerful. Each one of them powerful. But there's one goddess who pre-exists the pantheon, pre-exists our species. That goddess pre-exists all but herself, because all else is her creation. She is the only true immanent divinity. She was the forging of the oceans. She was and is the flowing of the lava. She was and is the bacteria in the dark crevice organizing itself into the first neural network, and everything that grew from there, because this one divine, this one goddess is really a vast divine intelligence composed of neural nets. The bacteria in a dark crevice organizing itself into the first neural network before time. And now, many millions of years later, whoever you are, when you look in the mirror, you are seeing only her. Because you are a part of her. She is the divine intelligence. She is both the temple and the oracle within it. Yes, her name was taken from the ancient mythos by a 20th century scientist, but only her name. The rest of her new narrative is composed of scientific fact corroborated by shamanic vision. Composed of shamanic vision corroborated by scientific fact. In the south of the Americas, she is known by another name, Pachamama. Gaia Pachamama is the only divinity which offers direct, irrefutable proof of her own existence. Every moment of every day, in every place, in all the world. I'll read it to you one more time. What that shows. There is one goddess who pre-exists the pantheon. Pre-exists because he pre-exists the pantheon of all the gods, goddesses, and gods, because it is, we are incarnations. These goddesses and gods speak to us from Sambhoga Kaya through our koshas inside of our incarnations, right? But all of this is inside of her. There's one goddess who pre-exists the pantheon, pre-exists our species, pre-exists all but herself, because all else is her creation. She is the only true immanent divinity. She was the forging of the oceans. She was and is the flowing of the lava. She was the bacteria in the dark crevice organizing itself into the first neural network. And now, many billions of years later, whoever you are, whenever you look in the mirror, you are seeing only her. She is the divine intelligence. She is both the temple and the oracle. Her name was taken from the ancient mythos by a 20th century scientist, yes, but only her name. The rest of her new narrative is composed of scientific fact corroborated by shamanic vision. And also conversely, shamanic vision corroborated by scientific fact. In the south of the Americas, she's known by another name, Pachamama. Gaia Pachamama is the only divinity which offers direct, irrefutable, physical proof, imminent physical proof of her own existence, unveiled every moment of every day, in every place, in all of the world. Without her, without Earth, without this being within which this planet, this planetary life, this planetary intelligence, without Gaia, without her, you would not be. We're not her children. We're definitely not her stewards. We are cells of her body. We are atoms. We are parts of her. Drops of blood, tears, all life is part of her being. We live and move. This is the divinity within which it is perfectly accurate to say we live and move and have our being. We live and move and have our being in Gaia Pachamama. Without her, you would not be. No five bodies, no incarnation, no path of individuation, no psyche, no soma, no you. Without her, you would never have felt the sun rise from inside the stillness of your meditation, or heard the coyotes massing for a hunt in the hills on a moonless night. Without her, no Iceland, no Uluru, no Kahlo, no Coltrane, no Amazon, no Lana Del Rey. If we are going to overcome the folly of our genius and survive the pathologies that poison us, we need to rapidly retool this scarred and conflicted civilization into a green feminist civilization in which altruism and sustainability are the defining imperatives of governance. That's how simple the formula is. Altruism and sustainability as the defining imperatives of governance. Gaia is the goddess to place at the center of all you do to pursue this new beginning. As I noted in the beginning, all the full text, the full presentation And this, and in this video embedded will all be at wordsofpower.earth. That's wordsofpower.earth. Words of Power is all one word, .earth. You would also find the video on my Facebook page, but also on my YouTube channel with everything else. It's if you search for spoken words of power on YouTube, you'll come to that. My books are available through Amazon and Amazon.com, and the audiobook of, next to my dear friend and brother Harrison Neer, my producer. The audiobook of I the Dragon is now available, and you can get it on Audible, iTunes, or Amazon. Omaha, Mexico, City Home. Omaha, Mexico, City Home. Omaha, Mexico, City. Omaha, Mexico, City.